Thank you, Mike. Welcome, everyone, to the September 2nd workshop meeting. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, tonight we have a few reports, starting with the superintendent's report, but also a Bayside presentation. So when Mike is finished with his report, you all can go up and take the stand at the podium, okay? Thank you. Mike, if you won't mind. Sure. I guess we should talk to Mike.
Good evening. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Thank you for those that are streaming live on our YouTube page. I really have a very simple report today. Welcome to the 21-22 school year. We're very excited to bring all of our children back to our programs. I wandered through all the schools, got into a lot of classrooms today, just felt the excitement, the nervousness of a first day, and wow, we're back. And it really was such a great feeling. Of course, one of the bumps and grinds that comes with the beginning of the school year is the backup on 9W. We are aware of it. We will do everything over the next several days to minimize the impact of traffic on that pinch point down there in the middle of Marlboro by our elementary school. It does get better, but it always is going to be a pinch point in the morning and also in the afternoon when there are so many parents and buses all driving into the elementary school to drop off and pick up. So yes, it is a challenge, and we work as closely as we can with our folks in the property to maximize and as efficiently and quickly and safely as possible get our children into the building and out of the building and onto transportation away. We also work with our police and traffic control partners so that we can look at the flow and see if there's any corrections that we can make, any adjustments that we can make, and quite honestly, we make a lot of those. Every year we've made adjustments to try to minimize the impact on that 9W corridor. But the real note is 21-22 school year is here. Seniors have painted their parking spots, and our seniors are already on their path towards that graduation stage. So really, really exciting start to the school year. So with that,
thank you, Mike.
Nothing else to report.
Anybody have questions, Mike? Okay, whenever you guys are ready, approach the podium, please.
Thank you all for having us here tonight. I'm Eric Baxter from Baxter Construction and Development.
I'm Dan Rieger from Rieger Homes.
Hi, I'm Lauren Rudkowski, also from Baxter.
So before we dive into more of the details of the project, I just want to update the board where the project currently sits. As many of you know, this project was approved about 5 years ago and has been sitting as it stands today, undeveloped, because of the challenges and difficulties with the site. We've currently presented the proposal for a pilot to the county IDA, and going in front of the school board is obviously an important step towards that hopeful approval.
I'm going to give you a little brief overview, and then we're going to dive into some of the details. And then I think the purpose of tonight's presentation is to have an open conversation and kind of figure out, how and if we can get this to a point where everybody's happy and we can get this project going. So Baxter and Rieger Homes are presenting Bayside Marlboro project. It's a 104-unit apartment complex. It's located right next to the middle school on 9W. Of the 104 units, there's going to be 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. We're going to have 3 full-time employees, about 75 to 100 construction jobs during the construction period. We expect increased sales tax revenue from over 200 new residents in the Marlboro area, and we intend to have an emphasis on employment of Ulster County companies before, during, and after the construction of the project. One of the things that we do want to talk about tonight is the school improvements that are as part of the approval of this project, what's already been done and what still needs to be completed, and creating a safe environment for children and the faculty of Marlboro Middle School. So, Rieger Homes and Baxter are both third-generation developers locally, and I think that's something important about this project. We intend to be here, build the right product, be a part of it, be partners with the community. And so, that's a big part of why we're here, to try to figure out how to build the right partnership to make this work for both of us. We've been meeting with the IDA. We have some proposed schedules for a pilot. We can show the proposed pilot at this point. Or we'll give it to you we'll give it to you later on in the presentation. But right now, I'm going to let Eric give you a little bit of information.
I just want to give a brief history on Baxter. We were founded in '83. We're a general contracting firm as well as local developers. We have a lot of employees that live in Marlboro and Ulster County. We're based out of Poughkeepsie, right across the bridge. Through the past 10 years, we've delivered about 350 multifamily units, pretty high end with good finishes. And I don't know if you want to, we'll go to that after. We're a diverse company of over 80 employees, many women and minorities. I'll let Dan go about Rieger.
So, as I said, we're currently building in Marlboro. I'm a third-generation home builder. We've built over 6,000 houses in the Hudson Valley. I think it's just important to know, I grew up in Newburgh. We're from here. I work out of Newburgh every day. We take a lot of pride in our community, and we take a lot of pride in Ulster, Dutchess, and Orange counties, and being able to provide housing for the surrounding counties.
Here are just a few relevant projects that we're pulling a lot of the similar finishes and a lot of similar design aesthetics that would go into the project right in front of the middle school. The project on the top left, which is right here, is Lagrange Farms at Overlook. This is a 107-unit complex. Many are townhomes, flats, 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. As you can see, we like to select a pretty high-end aesthetic on both the interiors and exteriors of products that are going to last a long time and hold up well to the elements. And we also take a lot of pride in how we landscape our properties. We actually manage them ourselves. Again, we're right in Poughkeepsie. We take a lot of time and effort in upkeeping the properties. Yep, and that is actually right across from the school as well. This is a project we built for another developer in Beacon, which was a 4-story, 46-unit building. This is 472 Maple Street, right in the city of Poughkeepsie. This was an urban infill project. Again, we're just kind of showing the aesthetic we use in the apartments. Stone countertops, stainless steel appliances, what have you. This is a mixed-use development called the Academy in the city of Poughkeepsie. We're co-developing this with the Rieger family. This is a food hall, event space, and will also hold 28 apartments as well in here.
that was hopefully helpful for you to get a sense of, the projects that we develop, that Rieger family develops, and then talking about the project here next to the school. We just want to put it on the map for you if you're not familiar, which I'm sure you all are. But the site is right off of 9W. We can go to the next slide. So this is a proposed layout of the buildings. Again, 104 units. If you can see what we have on the screen, it's a breakdown of the unit types, 2 and 3 bedrooms. Initially, we underwrote this project to be market rate units, but really that's just what the market can bear, obviously. So in talking to the IDA in our conversations about a pilot, we introduced affordable units. And just to define affordable units in this case, it's 80% and 70% AMI. So the rent levels are somewhere depending on the unit size and what AMI, it's somewhere in the $1,200 and change up to $1,800 and change for 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units. We haven't ironed out those details yet, but that's what we're proposing. So hopefully this gives you a sense of what the project might look like. This is just a representative elevation. These are from approved plans that we have right now. We may take some liberties with the design elements, but this is what we have approved. Floor plans, they're pretty standard, spacious, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. Again, these are just pulling from the projects that we showed you already. I think what's helpful here is the top left and the bottom right. This was very similar project that we did. It was that Lagrange Farms, 107 units. Price point is a little bit higher for this one, but the cost to build it was about the same. So, we do feel like that's a product we could put forth here. So to talk about Dan hit on these before, but some of the community benefits that we're talking about here really are three full-time jobs. Once the building is up in operations, there's a management person, there's a super taking care of the property, there's a porter, maintenance person. On top of that, they will obviously have local companies contracted for HVAC maintenance, for landscaping, snowplow, leasing those units, taxes, whatever. We're really focusing on hiring local for those. And then even talking about before the project's delivered during the construction phase, Baxter, Rieger, obviously being local to the area, maybe not Ulster County per se, but we have a lot of relationships with local suppliers, subcontractors, and plan to go out to all of those contacts that we have and any that we have procured from our relationships to try to make this as local as possible. School benefits, I'm going to let Dan circle back to this one. I'm going to jump to the economic stimulants for a second. We are proposing 104 units here, which would imply at least 200 new residents in the area. And I mean, new residents to this community, they may be coming from another town within Ulster County. Maybe a product that they were looking for didn't exist and they otherwise would have gone to Orange County or crossed the river or gone south. But we're hoping to fill a gap there and really provide housing for about 200 residents. We did some studies on what the average spend might be of those households. And we have more data on this, but it could be up to $5 million in the local economy that these homes, these households would be spending going out to eat and different services and their shopping and whatnot. And so I'll let Dan speak a little bit more to the school benefits because I think that's something that you've kind of worked through.
So I'm sure you guys are aware of the benefits to the school that have been put forth as part of the accepted approved plans. But I'm not sure what has been done yet. I think we heard through the grapevine that some of the work may have been done. But what is needed to be done is improvements to the entrance of the school, additional parking, an additional parking lot, plus an egress for buses to leave the school property with an additional stoplight on 9W, which would help alleviate, hopefully, some of the issues that happen along 9W with the traffic. So I'm not sure what's been done yet. We can discuss that at the end of the presentation. But that's what we're here to figure out: what still needs to be done, what has been done, if there's anything else that we can do that sort of accommodates some of your concerns to make it all work.
I think what also is important is we like to think we have a pretty positive track record in the community with the developments that we put forth, and we're excited to deliver a high-quality product that's going to be neighbors to the middle school for a long time to come. And we don't buy and sell our properties. We hold on to them for many years.
Okay, so we had a look at what the impact might be on the school system if we're building 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. I think we'd like to make this a discussion, of course. But based on some studies out of the Rutgers University Blaustein School, we were informed, right? Our research, a research report we had done, told us that there may be up to 61 school-age children. That's from ages 3 to 18, and the breakdown here is in this column that shows potential school-age children. So I think a few things to note is in the complexes we've developed, like the one I keep coming back to, Overlook, at Lagrange Farms being a good example of, kind of garden style, nice apartments, a price point that's attainable for most, but not completely out there. We have far fewer children than what this study would suggest. So we tried to look at that one. We looked at another one in the city of Poughkeepsie, and this number is much higher than that. So we feel, based on those comparisons, that this should be a higher end of the number that we would be looking at. Another thing to note is, of course, these students would be coming in gradually as the units fill up, as children, grow up to school age. And then another thing is, not all of the students in every complex go to public schools. So we don't have a definite number on that, but we'd definitely like to hear some of your
We're sure you have some sort of a ratio as new developments are built that you can give us some guidance on what your expectation would be on 104 units as to how many students it might be, and we can discuss that also.
And we also had information that over the last, call it 10 school years, there was a loss of 116 students. So, taking that all into account, we don't believe it's a tremendous burden to the school district, but it's certainly not something to just go right by, right? So I think we can. So this just shows where the star is, where the property is, and all the dots that are too far away to see from here are really just showing local businesses. So to get into the weeds a little bit on the pilot program.
Before we get into the numbers of the pilot program, I think it's important that everyone's aware of why we're coming here to ask for a pilot. As many drive by this parcel day in, day out, it's a very difficult parcel to develop. It's up on a hill, there's a lot of rock. So the development costs are much higher than what a typical development site would cost. Also, in today's market, the cost of construction is very high. So that added to the rents we think we can achieve here, we think we need some relief in the beginning years as we want to develop this parcel.
So just to jump into the numbers a bit here, we're proposing a schedule that starts, sorry, I'm trying to get it in front of me that I could see it. So, well, taking a step back, the taxes today are around 13,000, just over 13,000. So that's undeveloped, the site as is. We're proposing that we would start the pilot schedule at 20% of the taxes paid, and that would stay the same for the first 4 years, and then it would start stepping up over the course of 18 years. So in year 19, it would be, full tax burden. So translating that to actual dollars, we're saying that today, undeveloped, the land is 13,000. That's the taxes coming in. And when we would start building our project, year one would be 100,000 paid in taxes. And that would, continue, and it would grow over the course of the 18 years. And at the end, you'd have a cumulative $4 million of taxes paid. And the delta between what would be paid in addition to, so we have taxes paid now, we have the total taxes paid. That incremental difference is $3.7 million. And what that means for the school taxes, because, right, that we're talking total taxes, those numbers I just gave you. So for the school taxes, assuming it's about 60% of total taxes, you're talking a cumulative balance of $2.7 million to the school. So I think in talking about pilot, there's often a discussion of, what is the developer getting from that? And, the way we sort of look at it is we're adding to the taxes being paid. There's a relief on our side, but it helps the project to be built, because without it, it's not economically feasible. And so we hope that we can find a way to, check boxes and figure out needs and fit those needs and be able to develop this project. If you wanted to add anything on the school taxes. It's more, definitely more than one per. No, I think the project is set on 25 acres. So yes, there's building. Sure. Sure.
I'm going to pull up the plan so I can answer you correctly. If you could one second,
If you want to go to another question while he's looking that up.
Sure, how many visitor spaces do you have? In addition to the parking spaces?
Yeah, we'll get that answered for you.
And then I thought there was supposed to be an industry piece that goes with this. How many parking spaces are going with that? Isn't there like some kind of building for offices or something like that with this? Or was that the original plans of that style? Because I didn't see that on the.
We're in contract to just buy the multifamily parcel. It's two different parcels.
Okay.
Eric, excuse me. I'm looking at your, the pro forma, and you did say 104 units, right? But I believe someone said that you were looking for 1,200 to 1,800 per unit. Is that correct, per month?
That was for the affordable units.
Gotcha. Okay, because, I just did some quick math, and I came in around 1,900, and seeing that's your project on 44 also, right?
No, that's the Kirchhoff
Oh,
companies.
Kirchhoff, okay.
Ours is between 44 and 55.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
You guys have seen our budget, right? What it costs to educate a student here in Marlboro. Roughly speaking, an average student costs about $23,000 a year. Special needs student costs about $52,000 a year. I'm just going to use a number of $25,000 as an average. And based on your numbers there before, you had a number of students, but I'm going to reduce that further, even down to 40 students. So 40 students at $25,000 a year is $1 million a year in costs that you're going to bring to the district. How do you propose I pay that with $108,000?
I'd love to get into the budget numbers more and find out if there's, if there's fixed costs. I don't want to question the 25,000, but I would love to have a little bit more detail on
Well,
that.
it would actually, the average is actually higher, but I was trying
Mr.
to be
Rieger,
generous.
excuse me a
and
minute.
not make
Mr.
this
Rieger?
ridiculous.
Mr. Rieger?
Dan?
Sir, could you answer that for everyone to hear? Plus, it's getting some crosstalk here. But let's do that next, or you can finish this question first,
Let's
maybe?
finish this question, and then we'll circle back to that.
They got the answer to my question. I'm still concerned because there are 104 units. There's 224 parking spaces. That's 2 per unit, but you have some that have 3. So you have a couple, 2, and then a third bedroom. You're going to have that. You're most likely going to have a student driver or a parent driver in that unit, the way people are building and the way people are moving in. And then there's 16 visitor spaces, which doesn't seem like that much when you have 24, 104 units, 24 units per, wasn't it per section? So it just seems very low in visitor. And the other is, I'm concerned about the number, there's 42 spaces for industry as well.
Could you repeat those numbers, Karen, because I want to write them down. That's what I wanted to get.
Correct me if I'm wrong, 104 for the actual residences, 224 actual parking spaces assigned to the 104 residences, 16 visitor spaces for 104 residences, and nobody better be intelligent, and 42 spaces for the commercial spaces.
Thank you, Karen. Okay. Sorry, you can continue with your answer before. I just want to make sure we got that, everybody got that.
Yeah, just piggybacking on what Lauren said, we we're not as into the budget as obviously you are, but we proposed this question to ourselves, and we think that as you would add more students to the school, the cost to educate a school would go down because there's a lot of certain fixed costs with maintenance and facilities, teachers and what have you to the school.
That's true, but that's why I was a little generous with what the number was.
Yeah. Isn't there, excuse me, but both my parents were actually.
How are they feeling, by the way?
What?
How are they feeling, by the way?
They're feeling, thanks for asking. They were both teachers in the city school district, and I believe per student there is some state aid. I don't know if I'm misspoken there, but yeah. So well, we don't know the exact details, we just know.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for us, of course, to better understand what the net cost is and how we can get to a number that actually works, right?
Right. Roughly, state aid currently is a third, but you know how reliable this state can be, especially being in business as long as you guys have. But I think our number is too far apart at this stage. Not that it couldn't work for everybody. We certainly want to see development in the community, positive development. Your family and of course Rieger Homes do fantastic products. I've seen a lot of your work firsthand. I know you manage your properties well. I think it would be a benefit to the community. But I think at this stage, from a dollar standpoint, we're a little far apart.
I have a question about that because the full tax burden, obviously we had to understand this to ask for the pilot, the full tax burden wouldn't be $1 million, right? So I think that was the number you threw out. That it
I'm
would
sorry?
cost-
Well,
you
I'm just looking at your printout, and I'm looking in year one, it's 106, where the cost would be roughly $1 million, leaving us 900,000 short for those
The total
students.
tax burden at the maximum assessed value would end up being under $600,000. So it's not that big of a,
Well, and then again, like I said, 600,000, the state's picking up a third, we're still out $500,000. $500,000 a year, over 25 years adds up pretty quick. And if you want to ask these people to pay it, then that's fine with me, but we're still a little ways apart.
And, sorry, let me just push in here for a second. My name's Neil Alexander. I'm a partner at the law firm of Cuddy and Fader. And I think you're getting at the heart of what we're trying to do. Yeah, let me see if I can get a little better with the microphone. Sorry about that, I know, with the mask. I think you're getting at the heart of what we're trying to triangulate, right? So what they know as a group is that the current uniform tax exemption policy for Ulster County, for an IDA deal for a straight lease transaction, won't work for them, and they haven't bought the property yet, right? So they're looking to make the acquisition. They've pushed, you know, it all gets baked in, right, is where we wind up on any development deal, and also for you as a school district setting a budget. So they're looking to do the project. They'd like to do the project. They know that the uniform tax exemption policy for a normal straight lease transaction won't work for them. That's why they're here tonight, right, to start talking about a deviation from the policy. They had a different escalation rate, and they were having conversations with the Ulster County IDA, and they were pushing down from a longer time period to a shorter time period of assistance. They wanted more money on the front end, and then also there was discussion of inclusionary and affordable units, which also changes, obviously, the school children generation. So I think what we're trying to do is exactly what you're getting at, and I think Lauren was very astute in saying, we don't have a full understanding of your side of the equation. We know the pressure we're getting from the IDA to change our pro forma in different ways as far as our ask on the pilot, and we want you to be a welcome partner to help us triangulate and get to finish, so that way the project can get built, the benefits that are associated with the project for the school district occur, and that economic activity, you know, happens. So, I mean, I think a large part of what tonight is for us is to say, please be our partner in that dialogue. Please share that information, and then let's do the math together, so to speak. You know, like every day's a school day, right? Let's do the math together to see if we can get across the finish line, and where the various, you know, proverbial haircuts have to be in order to do that, and hopefully we can get there. And being a lawyer, I get to avoid the math, right? But in all candor, we hear you that you only get so much state aid. The variability in that exists for you all. Enrollment, though, to our understanding, has gone down, which means you should have some capacity that if we're providing that, that'll help you. And we don't claim to know your, you know, model of delivery of education from a cost standpoint. And we'd love to understand that, so we can start plugging that into, and hopefully we all can wind up with a deal here.
I have one question and then a point. In the packet that we received, there's a piece that says greater local area benefits, and in there you have an additional $204,000 in recreational fees. What does that mean?
That goes to the town of Marlboro, and I believe they're able to spend it on parks and recreation, those items.
Okay. And then before you were talking about doing your research to find out how the economic impact or the amount of students that they would be projecting brought in, looking at the location of your other projects and the location of this project, the other projects are all very close to public transportation, which is why you don't see a large increase in students, because it's people who are working, whether they're working in the city or in Westchester. It's a very convenient location, Beacon, City of Poughkeepsie, to get onto public transportation. One of the things that we have here in Marlboro is it's not very easy to get access to public transportation. So you will find a larger contingent of families who are looking to move in, where that 61 number might look more like 100, where what you're used to on the other side of the river is not the average. I worry we're going to be above that 61 number, because if you're a part of the Marlboro Facebook page right now, it's almost impossible to find rentals in the Marlboro School District. As parents with children, it is something I'm very proud of, that parents are trying to live in our school district to have their children educated here. But a project that you're proposing, I do fear it's going to have a much larger implication on our school system than what the data is actually saying, and that's because of proximity
Yeah.
to public transportation.
Thank you for that. Actually, the Lagrange Farms project is probably the same distance from the city of Poughkeepsie train station as this project would be. So it's pretty equidistant to both. And when Lauren mentioned that at that community, we're actually seeing half the amount of kids, fewer than half than that 61 number.
It's a bridge, though.
What?
There's a bridge.
Understood.
So,
Understood. Yeah, understood.
You know, this side of the river is very different. It's outside of the distance that New York City workers are allowed to live, which it's the same with Poughkeepsie, but the public transportation piece and not having to cross a bridge are real concerns, and those are real issues where, especially when we add in the affordable housing piece to this, where that's really important for Marlboro to get families in here, it also adds a pretty significant burden to the school district, where those numbers, I understand where you're coming from,
Understood.
but I worry those numbers are going to be much higher for the burden on the
it's-
district.
It's all good feedback for us, so as Neil said, we can help come to a middle ground.
So, also,
Worried about our taxpayers. They've been hit so much in the last 10 years, and I'm just worried about the number of, the increase that this is going to put on our taxpayers as a burden, when they've been hurt so poorly through many tragedies over the last 12 years. And, I mean, beautiful pictures, beautiful product, but when it comes down to it, we're here for equity in education, fiscal transparency, and we're here for making sure that our students get what they need in an education. And by cutting a pilot like that, cuts the amount of money in education, and you're asking the taxpayers in this community to pick that up. And they've been hit very hard. A lot of our homeowners are almost going to lose their houses. So we do have a lot of unemployed, we have others in this area, and I just have to express my concerns.
Look, there are a lot of really interesting questions around economic development, and while I may not agree with your approach, fair enough that you want to ask them and start fleshing them out. I mean, I have a slightly different approach, which is, you know, you need the housing in order to have employees, in order for employers to locate there. And you need a diversity in your price points of your housing in order to have bigger companies even consider moving into your company and providing employment. And then obviously those bigger projects with the diversity there of price points can also provide an amazing economic development incentive in your community. And there's always a big question as to whether does the housing market lead to the employers coming, or does the employer come and then the housing market, and you can debate that, you know, forever. So I share your concern. I understand, you know, there's an obligation to educate that you all are way more familiar with and work on day in, day out. And like I said with my last set of comments, we're not here to pick a fight, right? And we're here to have a dialogue with you all, and I appreciate and respect your perspective. I do think that, and it is a different situation than what you're normally involved with, because usually it's the IDA coming and talking to you about their uniform tax exemption policy and how they'd like to change it, and getting all the taxing authorities to buy into it before that happens and it becomes a county-wide policy. Here we're looking for a deviation because what we've been able to determine is essentially that the standard is not enough with this site. And I think 5 years has sort of also proven that too. So I also think sometimes it's also compared to what, because they're offering to bring and finish the projects on your property that and with the traffic light and so forth that haven't been, right? And that becomes an included cost that you would have to bond against if you wanted to actually provide that or as well. So I do think what we're really asking you to do is to become our partners with us for a discussion, to see where the numbers can lead us, see what gaps we can bridge. And I think that's really what we're hoping to do by introducing it tonight. The Rutgers studies have been pretty good as far as predicting. I hear you on what you're saying as far as the potential difference, and I think there's a fair amount of multifamily in the greater, 20-mile area on this side that we can also sort of take a look at to sort of get a sense of whether those numbers are higher or lower. And ultimately, I think, obviously being in the creation business, right? I mean, that's what being a developer is, right? Is you're creating and creating potential, just like you all are investing the capital and creating human potential. And I think that's what we're just trying to work together with you to do.
So, investment in Ulster County, is that what I'm hearing from what I heard before, or with other properties in Ulster?
We are involved with other properties in Ulster County. One along Route 9, 9W, and then a few apartment complexes we're involved with in and around Kingston.
We're currently building homes a couple miles from here.
So I guess I'm gonna, because something that James said about families looking for homes. So how many two-bedrooms would there be?
84.
Okay, and how many three-bedrooms?
20.
What?
20.
20, okay, and the rent on the two-bedrooms?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The rent on the two-bedrooms?
So on the market rate units, we right now are underwriting based on the market, the comparable properties, 1,800.
For a two-bedroom and a three-bedroom?
For a 3-bedroom, it's 2,000.
Okay, now, my other question is, how many are these apartments devoted to senior citizens that can't afford this? Like,
So-
we have Jenny Gardens?
So we have, right now, the proposal that we've put forth is to designate 15% of the units as 80% and 70%, a mix of 80 and 70% of AMI.
Okay.
But that's
So
not
that's
necessarily senior citizen,
right.
it's just based on income.
just based on income.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at, like, for the seniors, especially around here, and also for people with disabilities. OPWDD, I know, is involved with a lot of the apartments. And how many of those units would you use?
Typically, on the affordable units, we would reach out to those programs that help house those individuals, and they would go into one of the affordable units.
So, because I know, like, in Beacon, OPWDD has a number of units, because they have 24-hour staffing there. So would that be done here also?
That's a much different capital stack in terms of their finance. The project's financed much differently from a lot of government programs and what have you. This isn't financed through tax credits or grants from the government.
All right, so it's just 15% of whoever it is would get the
Correct.
apartments. So there's nothing based for our seniors around here.
It's actually something we've talked about, but again, it's a math problem where we're only getting a certain amount of revenue to cover the debt service that we get from the banks.
Okay, thank you.
Could you repeat the numbers you said for the affordable units? I'm sorry, I just couldn't hear you. These masks are, I think they affect my hearing too. but-
Sorry, there's 15 total affordable units of the 104.
Of the 104, okay. And did you mention that how much of a discount that would be for rent, or that you didn't mention?
It's-
We have some at 80% and some at 70% of AMI. So those rents, again, they range from, these are the affordable rents, range from 1,200 and change to 1,800 or
Okay.
1,700 and change.
Those are
And
the-
that's net of, there's a utility allowance, so that's a net cost to the renter.
And just so everyone understands, those are numbers that are put out by HUD and HCR from the state. Those are numbers given to us by the state.
Thank you, that's what I was
And
looking
it's
for.
based on Ulster County-wide median income, not Marlboro. So Marlboro probably on the higher end of the earning bracket.
Right, but we would have to use all of Ulster County
Correct.
calculations.
So for the other 89 units, what would the rents look like?
Those were the 1,800 and the 2,000. But those are market rate, so the market could be different by the time the project is completed. So that's what we're underwriting to today.
So that's just an estimate of what the apartments are. So when you build this, you can actually say that two-bedroom is $2,500 a month.
People have to be able to afford it.
Well, I'm just saying, but you could change. Right. You can,
It could be less, too.
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
One couple of things. One is, you had some extra slides in the ones you presented to here. And maybe you could give us an updated copy so we get it all. Thank you for that. Just a comment. I mean, this development has had a start and stop a few times. And I think I'm going to make an overall statement here for the, like, on behalf of the community, but obviously I can't speak for them. But I think you have two parts to this proposal. The development itself is one thing, and I think what we've seen in the past is people would generally approve of it overall, and for all the benefits that a development would bring. The second part is the pilot, right? You're asking for a significantly reduced number, 75% for the first 10 years. It takes 25 years to get to 100, and Marlboro has some battle scars with pilots with the power plants, and Karen was alluding to that before. So, and obviously, that's just a starting point. I mean, there's negotiation and those things. And I do like the point that you've made that we need to work together. Because there is a, math to do on both sides. Yes, we can absorb some number of students. How many students is a guess. It's a, yes, you got some science behind it, but it's still an estimate. So you always have to have some play there. And that's going to be one of the two parts, town taxes as well. I mean, just to throw numbers around, the recreational fees far exceeds the whole school taxes for the first year and more, right? So there seems to be an imbalance there, but there's no sense beating that up now. But that's really, I think, going to be a big, that's going to be a decision point for the community, not just the board, but the two boards, and then the community is going to be giving us feedback real soon, now that numbers are being shown, right? So that's just a statement. But the other thing is, what exactly did you want to get out of today, and what is the next steps in terms of moving to approval or moving to a pilot if that precedes approval, or just in general, like where are you in the process, and where do we, the school board, fit into that process? Because some of us have not done this before. I'll speak for myself.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And just a quick clarification. So the rec fees issue is a one-time payment that's required by state law when you develop multifamily units or single-family units. It's basically, if you don't provide it on site, there's a fee that you're required to pay into essentially a kitty, so that way the town can develop it on its own. So that's statutorily required under town law, New York State town law. So that's where that's coming from. It's sort of, we just had to put that in the pro forma.
Okay.
We didn't get, there's no negotiation on that part. So where we are is I think we're in an interesting, the Venn diagram on this one's a little interesting, candidly, because we're moving in a direction with the IDA that's they're making certain suggestions, and then you all are making other suggestions, and they're a little bit at times everyone's moving with the best interests, but they're a little bit also at cross purposes sometimes, right? So if we have more inclusionary affordable units, while that's great for society and a great benefit, right? It lowers our revenue, and therefore it increases the amount of need on the pilot. Just talking big building blocks here, while meeting a great important goal of society, right? But also it exacerbates some of the things relative to your need, your role, because it more than likely, based on past experience, will lead to more children in your district, which then you have to deal with is how state aid covers that. So I think where we are is probably some sharing of understanding of what your true burdens are relative to educating children, and obviously The number we threw out was a monolithic number. We have further breakdowns in the materials by, primary, secondary, pre-K, through the 12 grades, and we know that costs you differently through those grades, because most kindergartners aren't taking AP classes, right, to be jocular. So that's, I think, the kind of information we need, and we may, I've been involved in a lot of multifamily projects, from Red Hook to Red Hook, so to speak, and, every now and then you come across one where you just can't figure out the math. Our hope is that, through everyone's best efforts, we can figure out the math together. So that's really where we are. We can't get too far down the line with the IDA, as you know, because you'll get a public notice of the hearing, and that's when your time to object runs, and your attorney can speak to that. I don't want to get too far out ahead of your attorney on that issue. And so we're trying to get to, a handshake before that notice would go out with you all. So we're a little bit glommed up, to be candid, until we figure out these math issues. That's a great question. Yeah, I think that's Eric's question's even better. Sorry.
So
Thank you.
we'll be getting feedback from them on a little more official.
Yeah.
Is there a possible way to get an official memo or official feedback from the board? I don't know if it would come at this meeting, or we've heard a few suggestions here. Okay.
I think to further flesh that out is, I think we probably would need, an appointed emissary from your board to sort of sit down, whether by Zoom or otherwise, with someone from us and someone from the IDA maybe, to start that, because otherwise it's going to be a lot of shuttle diplomacy, right? And a lot will get lost in translation. So if sort of 3 people in a room, kind of a thing, will help at least get the math to work, to then bring back to the 3 respective entities involved to discuss. I think that's how we expedite it, or whether it's 6 people in a room. You understand where I'm coming at. Is that where sorry.
Yeah, the point, once we start to get some numbers and understanding from you, and we have some better numbers and understanding from the IDA, we take everything and sort of pile it into our pro forma, and it either works or it doesn't. So, that's sort of where we are on our next steps. We just need to figure out what can work and what doesn't. We have to make it work for the bank, and then we have to be able to obviously raise enough capital to make the deal work also. So there's a couple of different steps that we all just need to figure out if it all aligns and we can partner on it or not. So yes, the next step would be more information from you so we can figure out if it's an option or not.
Community economic perspective and how to look at projects like this, and I kind of think about it as, in a perfect world they would execute flawlessly, right? We'd get a beautiful project. I think they've demonstrated they know how to do that. So the execution, I think none of us should worry about as a community. Economically, I think there's one important thing I would encourage you all to think about, is that this is new money. This is not existing money. So when we talk about the pilot that they're granting is not increasing the tax burden on anybody. In fact, even if they grant the pilot, the amount of taxes that will get paid on this property in year 1 will be almost 10 times what we're going to collect if they don't get the pilot. Ultimately, we're going to collect nothing on this property, $13,000 a year. When they get the steady state, it's $600,000 a year. That's a huge benefit to the taxpayers in town. Operationally, you raise a good point about the number of students. I think the question there is, and maybe this is where we got to get underneath the math, is that, and the cost per student, that's a good question too, is the variable gain in the amount of tax revenue we're going to get, is that higher or lower than the variable hurt that it's going to create? So year to year, are we going to end up with more students in the schools? If it is, then it's a hurt. How much of a hurt? Does it outweigh the gain? That's a question, you know? You may be going down by 75, they're adding 61. It's a net reduction year to year. So therefore, the cost per student should really go down. So I think that's the math we got to get underneath to understand the true impact on a cost per student and on a year-to-year basis. But I just want everybody to think about the fact that this project is significant because it's new money. It doesn't exist today. And before we say no to it, we should really carefully think about when they get to steady state, we're going to have a beautiful project and we're going to have a tax benefit of $500,000 a year, roughly $600,000 a year. That's huge. So anyway. I'm sorry. I'm John DeMarco. So I used to lead the Economic Development Committee in town. I used to be the assistant supervisor in town. And before all that, just very involved with Mike and, a lot of the board members here on, just looking at the economics and what we're all wrestling with. And, when you talk about the burden that the people in the town have, you couldn't be more than, and let me put it in a different perspective too. I can really try to explain this. And I haven't done the numbers in the last year or so, but the last time I looked at it, Marlboro's tax rate right now in the town is about 4%. It has been for the last several years. The average tax rate in Ulster County is about 3%. So if you think about that, on a $300,000 home, if you live in a 3% town, you're paying $9,000 a year in taxes. If you live in a 4% town, like Marlboro, you're paying $12,000 a year in taxes. So you're paying a $3,000 a year premium to live in Marlboro versus anywhere else in Ulster County on average, okay? As an economic development group in the town, what we've been trying to work on for several years is how to cut that gap. I don't think we can eliminate the gap, with one foul swoop. We've proven that. But we decided that there were several things we could do as a community to go after that gap. One of them was to get more state aid, our fair share of state aid. Mike's done a great job in doing that. We got more state aid. In fact, how long ago was it we went to see Senator Skoufis on this? And we told him, we said we need some help. And one of the things we needed help on was that state aid, and we got it. That's great. The other thing we need help on is economic development, because the more ratables we bring into the town, the more people that are paying taxes, like these folks, that's nothing but benefit to the taxpayers in this town. Now, it has to be right. It can't create a traffic jam. It can't increase the cost per student, and it can't be a net increase over the years, because then it doesn't work for us. But I'm really feeling like, just based on what I know about what they're capable of doing, our current situation, and the fact that this is new money. We don't have this money today. This is going to be a benefit for Marlboro. So anyway, that's my 2 cents as a taxpayer. No longer a member of the board, no longer with EDC, and just as a taxpayer, that's my 2 cents. So just think about it as new money. It's not here today, and it won't be here unless they do it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody have any more questions? All right, well, thank you for your presentation and your time. Like I said, if you can give us those extra slides that we didn't see.
We'll send you an updated.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Okay, next up in reports, Ulster BOCES report and Orange Ulster BOCES report. Karen, anything to report on those?
Ulster BOCES, hasn't yet, Orange Ulster, can you hear me?
I can. I don't know about
This
everybody
isn't
else.
on, though. Wow, you can hear me and it's not on. Orange County Oxbow met last night. 28 members attended of 17 districts to the meeting. It's still on Zoom. John from Minnesink is the president of Oxbow. He welcomed the new members in Orange County that were elected. And just to point out, 28 new board members on 17 districts were elected this past year. So that's a large number of new board members, and he pointed that out. Annual conference is coming up. Annual conference right now, the hotel is the Hilton in New York City for New York State School Boards Association, and it's at 70% capacity. And the dates are changed. In the past, it's always been Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you arrive Thursday night, Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now it's changed. They're going to do, you arrive Saturday night, and it's early, starts 7 a.m. Sunday morning, Monday, Tuesday, so it's a little different. There's no penalty if, for example, the pandemic gets worse. If the hotel registration or anything has to cancel, we're still in a no penalty zone. They'll know 6 weeks out. Some things that are up that they've taken precautions for the conference, which I thought was very interesting, is they hired Physicians Medical to handle vaccination requirements. Mayor de Blasio made a rule as of August 16th that in New York City you had to show your vaccination status. So what they're going to do at the conference is they're going to take temperatures, they're going to have a medical presence, they're going to do rapid testing if needed for anybody with symptoms. So basically it'll be an in-house medical team. They are going to be checking people's vaccination status before going, and so they're not going to use Excelsior or Excelsior Plus or VaxPass. They're using some other system. If you go, you have to have your vaccine card on you. You have to show it when you check into the hotel. And if you plan on eating while you're down there, any place you go to eat, you have to show the restaurant your vaccine card. Registration is contactless. The program is now an app. There's no print. Hand sanitizing stations will be there. It'll be like all one-way directional. And they do have a contingency plan, which I thought was interesting. The contingency plan is if they need to, they will go on online, and it will be reduced fees, but there will not be as many offerings, and there would be no penalties if they have to switch all of a sudden to online. Right now, there's 1,100 people registered. Usually, there's 3,000 people registered. That 1,100 does not include staff, speakers, vendors, any of that. Last year, online, there were only 900 participants. Vendors' booth were reduced by staff from 4 to 2 for this year, so they're only allowing 2 vendors per booth. Topics that they're going to have at this conference: social-emotional learning, learning loss. The keynote is going to be Dr. Richard White. There's a video you can see, raw tuba, R.A.W. tuba. That's what he's going to be speaking on. That's the latest hot educational video on cultural diversity. The EndNote is something new they're adding this year. It's EndNote to the conference, like a keynote for the beginning. And that's going to be Juju Chang, which she is the American television journalist for ABC News, and currently serves as the anchor on Nightline. So she's going to be there. New York State Ed Senior Deputy Commissioner of Education, Jim Baldwin's going to be there. He's going to do a 20-minute presentation and a 40-minute question-answer. They're going to have the Red Story Marketing Group there, which looks pretty interesting. It's to help marketing schools. They're going to have Go Point, which is part of marketing, and then every time somebody gets a point, they point at something. I'm not really sure, I kind of get that whole thing, but that's going to be there. They're going to have exhibitor-led sessions. Something new this year is TED Talks. They're going to have 6 of them. They're going to be 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday, the opening day, which is going to be the same time. People will have to decide between that or the law program, which is also 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our executive director said there's new postings coming out for board members. One of the new courses that they're going to be offering is how to handle contentious board meetings. The other thing that they're now offering, John, you might be interested in this, they're doing a BOE Board President's Forum for Orange County districts. That's going to be starting up next month. Mr. Hecht said that OU BOCES started yesterday. Everything went smoothly, but they're administering strictly to masking and social distancing. He referred to OU BOCES as like the UN of Orange County because so many districts and students from not just our 17 districts but outside the region as well come to that county. This I thought was very interesting. Bishop John Williams of Middletown School Board, he is the head of our DEI committee for the county. They've been using in the county for implicit bias training, culturally responsive framework, and critical race theory. Dr. Marks out of Atlanta, and he's gotten wonderful reviews, he was telling us, by many of the school districts that have used him. And that committee also got training by him. Bill Boss spoke about resolutions. He said that August 30th, the resolution packets came out. They're on the website. Anybody can see them. Washingtonville put out 3 resolutions, 2 of which have been recommended. So we do have a local school district that's put in for the resolutions. That's basically it for the OXBA update. Their next meeting is in October. They're working on a schedule of topics of what's going to come out. The other thing that you all got in your packet with the introduction was he sent out, Karen Mayer sent out services for kids in Orange County. And the board president of OXBA wanted to make sure that got out with all the social emotional issues kids are going through. So that's something that's in there too, and we might want to forward that to our social workers and the schools to help them with the kids as well. Now, the only thing I would like to recommend out of this is a motion, because it's moving along, and next month is the conference. And in order to not get blocked out, if anybody wants to go to the conference, we have to make a motion so that they can go, and so Teresa can make the reservations. I'd like to make a motion that if anybody would like to attend the conference, that we approve it at this meeting, so that this way those people can attend and give their names to Teresa.
Okay.
Anybody second?
Okay, so Karen has a motion. Anybody want to second it? James? Now, let's have some discussion. So, I didn't catch all the costs, and is there a limit or?
I didn't get the cost of it. There are only 30% more people can, they're at 70% capacity. I can't go for the whole thing. I could probably just go down for the day on Sunday, but I don't want to take a spot up if somebody can go for the whole conference.
Okay.
All right, the cost is relatively nominal, especially if you're not staying there. So since it's New York City, it'd be easy to get in and get out. But really, it depends upon your individual situation. We do have a budget for board conferences. It is not large enough to accommodate everyone staying there the whole time. But if the board wants to go to the conference, whoever wants to go will transfer and make the adjustments necessary to get people to the conference. So.
And this is the one, right, Karen, that we have
Yes,
it pulled
that's
right here?
I don't know if the price is
there's-
on there.
No, it's not.
Okay, so I have been to the conferences many times, and they do start early, so to come back and forth, even in the city, it's hard.
Whatever the board wants,
Right.
whatever you want to do, we just need to know who wants to go, and then we can get you guys registered.
It is very interesting and very educational. I've gone to, that's normally when I go to the law conferences. And there's lots of classes to take that you'll learn so much about, like superintendents, evaluations, how can we do better for our kids, emotional support, how other school districts are doing different things. So it is definitely very educating for the board. But unfortunately, this year, I have to be honest, I am not comfortable going down to the city to do this. If it was still online, I may consider it. But right now, this is the first time I have to honestly say I will not be going. So, but it is great opportunity.
So-
I went last year online, and it was wonderful, the topics, the presentations, the materials. I think you went as well. I thought.
Yes, so did I, but I mean,
Like
did, it
I said,
was
I
great.
can't commit to more than a Sunday, and I wouldn't want to stay overnight. So,
Okay, so we have one person who would like to go as a day trip.
But I don't want to take the
Well, I
spot
don't think
if
we have
someone
to,
can go the
I
whole
don't think we have
conference.
to pick one or the other. I think we can certainly afford a few people to go down, especially if you're going to go down for the day or more.
That's-
So we got one person, and
that's for the law conference. There's a difference between the law conference and the conference.
okay, so
So,
I
the
know,
law
but it's the same
conferences are
dates,
done
right?
different times.
it's the
Is-
same dates, though.
Are
right?
we selecting people right now, or are we just,
We're just
the
approving.
Just approving.
motion was
Yeah. Okay,
to
so-
approve anyone who looks
all
at their
right,
schedule
So
and,
we have a motion and a second, so let's take a vote to
And then-
approve that we will send some folks and we can discuss, we don't have to Karen's point, we should move fairly quick, but, we don't have to decide right now and we can look at it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning towards not the overnight, maybe a day or two, depending.
And I have to also say, it's my anniversary weekend, so I don't know how my husband's going to feel about me going down for the day. So,
He's laughing
Yeah.
now.
yeah, I saw the look.
All right, so let's take a roll call. Karen? Let's take a roll call.
Yes.
Karen? Trish?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
And yes for me, okay?
And normally, John, what happens if someone does want to go, they normally bring it back to the board meeting, so we kind of like can all know, because you get a pamphlet on what classes, and we can ask that person to go, and also a board delegate. We
All
have to decide on who the delegate would be at the end of the conference.
That we should decide tonight, the delegate, because that's the voting delegate that goes to the conference.
We don't know
Or
who's
at
going
least
yet,
the-
so.
Whoever's going to go, just contact Teresa tomorrow
To be the
or
delegate.
Monday.
I think they have to go on Tuesday.
It's
they have to be
the
at
last day,
conference Tuesday.
it's the last day of the conference, and normally you're in a room with other school board members, and you don't get let out until it's done, and,
So let's see who's going to be interested in going tomorrow or Monday, let's say at the latest, and then we can see, do we have to select someone, or is it kind of decided for us based on who's actually going?
It-
So let's see.
you know,
Thank you.
but it doesn't matter if we go or we don't go, I mean, it just,
No, it's okay. We got it open now, so that's good. So let's move to the next item, which would be public comment on agenda items. Does anybody have any comment just on the agenda items? Please save any new topics to the end. Hello,
Frank
Frank.
Milazzo from Milton. The board just had a presentation on Bayside, and as a taxpayer, they have the option to get a regular pilot. They've come to the board and they're asking for a deviated pilot. It's important that the board realize it's not fair to the taxpayers. Why should they get a deviated pilot? We have enough pilots for businesses that bring stuff. We all own homes. We all have to pay our taxes. I may not see eye to eye with Senator Skoufis on a lot of things, but in this case, I agree with him 100%. Pay your damn taxes. It's just the way it is. They want to build a residential project in our district, and I'm sure you'll get guided as to what your ability to protect us is. But this board should not be agreeing to a deviated pilot with a housing builder. It's not a commercial thing that's going to fluctuate. That's all.
Thank you, Frank. I think that was definitely our key point that we all taken away from this, is that's where the focus is going to be, the numbers and the difference between a standard pilot and a deviated pilot. I'm not 100% sure of that myself, but we'll learn. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, next up is the consent agenda. I'll speak a little bit louder with this mask. Okay. Resolved that the Board of Education...
John, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know if Teresa can make the adjustment really quick, but the trip should be actually in recommended actions, because it's not a standard item. So I don't know if you can slide that down, Teresa,
Oh, yeah.
the high school trip. I apologize for that. It should have been down in recommended actions.
Okay, so let's note that within the consent agenda, it's items A, B, C, and D. Item E, we're handling as a recommended action. Okay. With that said, resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the contracts, agreements, and reports as presented. Personnel recommendations, donation, and CSE, CPSE report. Do I have a motion? Karen? Second? Joanne? Any discussion? Can you get in closer to the mic, please?
I just have one. I just noticed on the retirement, we have Janet Wachtros and Jerry Taddeo. I just wanted to say thank you for all their service, and they've been here a long time, and congratulations to both of them. Other than that, that's
Great, thank you. I have one question on this, well, never mind, it's not on this yet. I'll save it for the actions. Karen?
I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Kurtz for the generous donation for the biology class.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Any more discussion? Okay, take a roll. Faith?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Trish?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion passed 7-0. Okay, first on the recommended action, Marlboro High School senior class trip of 2022. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the contracts. Wait, that's sitting in the. So this motion and voting counts to this? All right. Yeah. Same thing, just say the last, okay. I got it. Let me get back to the consent agenda. Okay. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the contracts, agreements, and reports as presented. Marlboro High School Senior Class Trip 2022. Can I have a motion? James, second. Joanne, any discussion? James?
Are we going to let them talk about it, or do we just want to
They're
talk
here
about
to,
it?
they're here to answer any questions that you
Okay.
have, but there's no presentation for it, so if you have any
Perfect.
questions, they are ready to
I
answer any
have
questions. that you
one
have.
question. The $500 non-refundable deposit, is it possible, in lieu of the $500 non-refundable deposit, to go through a travel insurance company and have all of the families purchase travel insurance? I know it all makes sense, but I just looked up a quick quote, and we can get travel insurance between $30 and $50 for a single person to have that same trip covered with a $1,500 cost.
I know last year when we were going through this process, we learned some things about insurance. You have very different standards for large trips than you do for individuals who are purchasing and booking. We certainly could look into that, but we did ask many questions. There's a risk here that is higher in terms of a non-refundable deposit for people that they would put up front, but our request is for approval so that we can present this to families and let them make a determination. So.
Okay. Joanne, sorry, Joanne, you have a question?
Okay. So in our senior class, how many seniors do we have?
We have approximately 150 seniors.
And out of that 150 seniors, do we have an idea, rough idea, how many would be interested?
That's a great question. That's why we'd like to get started in the process of seeing what the interest is. We can accommodate a trip, though. I would say anywhere in the range of.
Our last trip prior to COVID, we brought 65 students, I think it was 71 people in Chaparral. So that was 20.
Right, that was 2 years ago. Right. Yeah, because I know after that, they also do another field trip with the kids that didn't get to go. So is that included in with this too? Because I didn't see that in here.
No, we do a great adventure trip typically in the spring. That's not an overnight, so we typically have most of the class join us for that. That's in June.
I would like to know, after you do this, how many seniors actually sign up, just to see the percentage. All right. Thank you.
Karen, you have a question?
My question is pure curiosity. I didn't see it in the packet, and the E isn't on my thing, so I was wondering where they're going.
We're going to Universal, Magic Kingdom.
Oh, so you're going to Florida?
Yes.
A Disney trip?
Disney, yes.
How many days are they going?
We go Thursday, we leave very early in the morning. It's like Friday, and then we return late at night on Monday.
Wonderful trip. Enjoy. It's wonderful.
Yes.
So it's in April, right? When they
Yes.
Yeah.
And in the past, there's always been a $250 non-refundable fee. Is that part of the 500? That goes towards the airfare through grades? Yes.
On that non-refundable, is there any discussion or terms that's related to if it gets canceled again, like for COVID or anything like that? I mean, that's the big question, really, more than anything else at this point, right?
Sure, so we actually learned a lot about that last year. When the airline makes the decision to cancel, things become refundable. If we decide to and if they still run the plane, whether we get on the plane or not, you're still out the deposit and the money. But again, if the airline decides to cancel, we actually got, in my view, lucky last year because the airline canceled the flight. There were other schools in some cases where kids either lost money or they got vouchers. Some of the airlines gave that back. It's not completely risk-free right now, nothing is, but the kids want this. They want a chance to do this. I think families want to be supportive. To answer your question about interest, we'll have a meeting. We'll see where the interest is. You know, we do have a minimum number that we would need, but I think we're going to get a lot of interest in doing this.
So I think this year will be the best of all because everybody wants to do something. So my other question is, for how many children that go or students that go, how many chaperones do you have? Or we'll determine that at the time.
It's usually based on the amount of students that attend, but in the past when we've had about the 65 students, we've had between 6 and 7 chaperones. We do like 3 female, 3 male, and
Okay, thank you.
we also do plan on having, in the past, we've had a full room with 4 students in each room. Where they're sharing full-size beds. This year we decided to go to 2 in a room for COVID.
Oh, good job. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Right, which is not actually a significant cost difference. I think it was $50 or $75 more per student.
That's actually, I didn't even think of that. Very good.
Yeah, and the full itinerary is we've got Disney Magic Kingdom, Universal Studios for the Grab Bash Party, SeaWorld, Disney Animal Kingdom, and Typhoon Lagoon. So it's a great trip.
So
I mean, you guys know from the history, many seniors, they talk about it forever, so.
So they won't be sleeping long.
What's that?
They won't be sleeping long. You'll have them all
I don't think anybody sleeps for the 4 days, but.
You're going to have them going constantly. Good, you'll tire them out.
They tire us chaperones out too.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, let's take a vote. Karen?
Yes.
Trish?
Definitely yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
And I'm yes. 7-0. Motion passed. Thank you very much, and good luck. Perfect choice of an action for the first day of school, I have to say. All right, we'll go on to the next recommended action. That shows up where it should. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the increase in the 2021 to 2022 school budget by $292,415.76 from funds received from the tax certiorari reserves in the following codes: revenues A960, appropriated reserves A5997, expenses A510, and contractual A1964 400 0000. Can I have a motion? Joanne, second. Michael, any discussion? No discussion? Okay. Karen?
Yes.
Trish?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right. Next on the agenda is new business. Does anybody have any new business? Karen?
Hi. I have 2 things. The first one I have is I'm on the executive committee with Meet Me in Marlboro, and they're having the Bounty Festival on October 2nd of this year. It's from 10 to 4 in the Klutschentz Memorial Park, and they would like to invite all the clubs, teams from Marlboro schools, if they would like to take part with either informational tables or if they would like to take part for fundraiser tables to help them out. There's no cost. The Meet Me in Marlboro would set them up. They just need to know by September 8th if they would like a table. If they could please email the club advisors, please email meetmeinmarlboro@gmail.com. Just give the name of the team or the club, what they want, either an informational table or a fundraising table, and then confirm they're going to be there by September 8th, and it's October 2nd. They just want to make sure before they give all the spots away that people in the community have them first.
And you said no cost?
No cost.
Okay.
Not for clubs, not for clubs or sports teams.
Rain date is the 3rd.
I don't know what the rain date is. I haven't really heard about that yet, but we're hoping for no rain. Fingers are crossed.
No, it is rain date's the 3rd.
She's saying rain date
It is
is
the 3rd.
Oh, it's the 3rd. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Faith.
So you said October 2nd?
Yes, it's a Saturday, 10 to 4.
All right, so how do we get that communicated out, Mike?
Actually, if you could send me that information, I will forward it on to the advisors for the clubs.
Yep, like I was telling
And then
you.
they can go directly to you to cut out the middleman.
It'll go to Sheila, so it's
Perfect.
perfect. I have one other thing for new, if nobody else has anything.
Sure, you go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to make a statement, and I'm hoping this is the right place to do it. We got a number of emails last couple of weeks, and I just have to thank one of the people that sent us an email. It was one of the football parents. We don't necessarily always know what goes on, and they very carefully described to us what actually is going on and the ways that they tried to find ways for this football team to exercise and storing the sports equipment. And I really have to say, I just want to thank Mrs. O'Donnell, the coaches, Mr. Cavazza, the students. They endlessly work to try and help these kids get what they need for their sports and also education. And it just shows the really good creative thinking, problem-solving skills that everybody put into it to come to a really good creative outcome for everybody. And I just want to basically say to our employees, from me, and I can't speak for the board, but we really do support you all. And you can count on us to always help you and to support you.
Yeah, I would agree. I saw that one as well, and I thought it was well laid out and more informational. Threw opinion in a little bit, but it was more about informational and thanking the people involved, so that was really a positive email. Anybody else have anything to bring up on new business? No? Okay, how about old business? James?
Last meeting, I had asked if we could get the breakdown of the class sizes. Were we able to do that?
Is it in your, I think the enrollment report's in your packet?
I did not have that in my packet.
I didn't
It's
see
on
that.
me. We'll get it out to you guys tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Karen?
I think Mike was next.
Oh, sorry, please.
Okay. Old business, I have two questions I have. The first one is FFA, Future Farmers of America. I've been going to some informational sessions on the other side of the river for us to start a club up for that. And the advisors on the other side of the river are willing to work with us and talk with us. How would we set something like that up in order to try and get a club like that started here?
Right, so some online dialogue happened, and it's kind of in the court of, let's wait till we get into September.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
And Ms. Hecht and high school and middle school administration are aware of that desire for something to ferment.
Didn't know, okay.
Foment.
All right.
If it does, great. As I had spoken with Sheila, we need a horse to pull the cart.
Gotcha.
Pun intended,
We
so to
need
speak. So if we get an advisor.
An advisor.
Right, and
Most
then
likely
that can,
an earth science teacher.
that can become something. Certainly if you have a excited group of children, that maybe they can energize someone that can also help pull the cart, so to speak.
Yep.
But I just requested to Sheila that is definitely not a mid to late August discussion. Because
Gotcha.
the staff that would be involved in doing that are not with us until after September 1st.
That's my fault, I didn't realize that conversation
So that is
took place.
kind of going to get in process over the coming weeks, and let's see where it goes. Hopefully it germinates and grows.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, it's kind of an old discussion. Mr. Mullen brought it up originally with the swim lessons with the kids. This is kind of hitting home with me. My daughter's a very good swimmer, but there's a trend going on with our kids. And she just brought up that she would like to try it. I don't know if anybody's heard about it, but some of the high school kids are doing cliff diving. And the junior high kids, my daughter was telling me about some of her friends that went and did it. And we were out last night shopping for tennis shoes, and she expressed to me in the car, as I tried to remain as calm as possible, as she said to me she would like to try that. And I told her that the water is very dirty and that wouldn't be a good idea, and that kind of killed because she doesn't like dirty water. But my concern is that kids really need to know how to swim, and we live so close to the river, so close to so many lakes, and I don't know where the kids are actually doing this at. I've just been hearing some of her friends talk about it, her talk about it, some of her high school friends talk about it, and I'm concerned about that, and I'm really thinking that we really need to up the swimming issue. I don't mean to jump on but that just got to me the other night.
Issue is not lost, and it is on our proposed meeting schedule themes, either for the next meeting or the first meeting of October. Still working through some details with the athletic department, phys ed department, but there will be a future presentation for the board to consider an interim step, something we could do this year, and then maybe perhaps grow that proposal to become a budgetary item if the board so chooses for the 22-23 school year. So future discussion very soon.
I
jump
apologize too,
on
bringing
that.
up the family for it. It's just, usually when my daughter knows about something, she's the last one to know about it, so I apologize.
I know ideally we would build it into our phys ed curriculum, but other districts have built it in as part of a continuing education and hired someone to run it. I did it previously in Pine Bush, where we hired students to come and we trained the students on how to teach the lessons. I know Middletown does it as free lessons, but it's after school hours. So if what's getting everything caught up is the logistical nightmare of moving elementary schools students or middle school students to the high school, maybe alleviating some of that logistical nightmare with off-hour programming might be a solution to look at.
You'll see something that will, the board will be able to chew on and kind of give some input and see is that going in the direction of where the board wants to go, and is it something that we want to build into as an interim step this year and then build on it going forward? I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. We had the program years ago.
Correct.
Ms. O'Donnell has some intimate knowledge of it because of former student. She was a former student, and I believe her mom was also in charge of aquatics program to some extent. So I think she was the person. I think so.
Mrs. Taddeo too.
We'll get that going either 2 weeks from today or 4 weeks from today.
Right. So, Mike, I just have a question with that, because it's not a program that they're there every week learning how to swim. It's a short time that we bring the elementary
I'm not prepared to speak on it
school.
at all, because I have not seen her presentation yet, so I have no information for you whatsoever.
Well, I'm just saying, in the
It'll be
past,
at that meeting, yep.
in the past, it used to be that the kids went for a short time, so if it's someone that's looking to learn how to swim, then maybe they should be looking, at the while, unless James just suggests, maybe an after-school program we can come up with too.
Yeah, there's several options, so
Right.
look forward to seeing that presentation. Anything else with old business? Trish?
Hi, I just want to personally thank Robin Hecht and her team for getting out all of those surveys to the families, all stakeholders. Please know that your efforts did not go unnoticed. They were not for, they weren't, how do I want to say this without getting myself in trouble? Just thank you, because it was so important for us to know that our stakeholders had a chance, had a forum to express what their views were, as you had outlined on the survey. We're very grateful that Governor Hochul came through with the mandate, as she said that she would, in real time. But if we had to make that decision, at least we would have had real data to go by. So again, just thank you, because I know that was a lot of hard work, and we truly appreciate your efforts.
Great. Michael?
I just want to make a statement to my fellow town of Newburgh residents from the Marlboro School District. Early this morning, Joanne Reed informed me that district residents were receiving their tax bills and that there were slight increases despite our assurances that we cut the tax levy this past year. Well, first, let me assure you that for the last 2 years, the school budget has not increased, and that's a fact. This past year, the board worked hard, and was able to come up with a tax levy decrease, trying to roll the clock backwards in some capacity anyway. The town of Newburgh, after I had called them, myself and Rose Mealy spoke with them at length this morning, informed us that the Newburgh tax rolls last year for Marlboro, for the Marlboro School District was about $160 million. They claimed that that number dropped to $148 million. So in a year where there's no budget increase or no levy increase, $148 million would have to pay the tax burden of $160 million. So despite our 3.03 reduction in the tax levy, Newburgh residents are actually seeing an increase of 0.81% in their school tax bill. Not to let this go unaddressed, we've been vigilant in speaking with the tax assessor's office to get evidence that this actually occurred. Many of us were skeptical because, as you know, the values of many homes have increased substantially. There's been significant movement into the Hudson Valley in the past year. There's business relocating into the Hudson Valley and construction. So again, we were kind of skeptical of this number. We'll continue to follow up on this to make sure that these assessments are correct. Whether they are or not, we'll continue to keep the public informed. So when you get those bills, or those of you that have escrow accounts, don't be surprised when you see a slight uptick in your school tax bill this year.
Thank you, Mike. Any other old business? Any other items? Okay, let's move on to the recognition of district residents. Would anybody like to get up and speak?
Is it working? Yes? Hi, Steve Jennison, Milton. So I just wanted to ask, I read an article in the Times, Dan Scammer opponents sound off at DEC public hearing. And what bothered me is that it said that there was, my apologies, no one supported the project. Now I was curious, do we not have a committee on the school board who is working on the Dan Scammer issue? Because I watched the board meetings, and I worry that we got to focus. How do I want to put this? Dan Scammer should be one of your top priorities as a school board, and those members who are on the board should be speaking at these hearings. I can't even tell you how many times I went up with the superintendent and myself when I was president to Albany when we were dealing with this Dan Scammer issue. This is a significant tax issue for our taxpayers. So just keep your eye on the prize. That's all I ask. But please, who's ever on that committee, be a voice. It's critical. We need to stand together and support the Dan Scammer project. Okay? Now, turn around. So now I'm the town, I'm the chairman for the Marlboro Town Community Pride Day. It's on September 25th with a rain date of September 26th. It is absolutely free for everybody. We're doing food, we're doing music, we have a carnival, we're doing fireworks. I encourage the community to come out. We're going to thank all the members who supported during COVID through Project Resilience, and we're also going to do a memorial walk. And I've got Mr. Vojade, he's going to release his doves. If you've never seen the doves released, it's just appropriate. We're going to do a walk. And we haven't had fireworks for 15, 20 years in our community. I remember growing up here, we had fireworks every year on July 4th. So we're going to bring it back. So I encourage us to come out. It's going to be a great day, and we've got community support, financial support, and come support us. And I also have Miss New York coming.
Steve, what was the times again?
Yeah, so it's
1 to 8.
1 to 8, and what date, Steve?
On the 25th, 1 to 8, the carnival, state
September.
police, DEC, they're going to have their tanks. And food is from 2 to 5. Okay.
That's right, we have a camp out from the scouts tied to that as well. so
Wonderful.
Thank
Cool.
you, Steve, and thank you for leading it up.
Absolutely free. Okay?
Steve, before you sit down, I just wanted to mention that I'm one of the members that's on that committee, and I'll be happy to send you a copy of the email that I sent after the first salvo from some of our left-of-center friends regarding the project. We've also found out that Senator Skoufis, who has 3 power plants in his district, Assemblyman Jacobson and Congressman Maloney are sympathetic to our position. We'll be reaching out to each of those 3 to formulate a strategy to inform the public, as well as try to retain some taxpayer in that space. We stand to lose $4 million a year, and somebody's going to have to pay that freight, or you know who gets stuck with the bit. Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I think the New York Times is maybe a little misguided in their response, but it doesn't surprise me. But the other side of the coin is we want a responsible power plant for the community. We want a power plant that doesn't, pollute excessively, that destroys our river. The Hudson Valley was actually named one of the 10 best places to live in America, surprisingly, but it was. And, the chief reason is because of its beauty. The river, the hills. It is a beautiful place to live, and we anticipate, doing our civic duty and extending our civic responsibility in having a power plant that is environmentally responsible and, of course, a friend to the taxpayer.
Thank you, Mike. Does anybody else from the audience want to speak? Okay, if not, we have a proposed executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations and obtaining legal counsel. Can I have a motion to get into executive session? Kate, second. James, all in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Okay. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. There will be no action taken after the executive meeting.